Good afternoon, everybody. This is the Thursday, December 20th, 2018 session of the Portland City Council. Carla, why don't you call the roll and then we'll call Commissioner Udaley.
Okay. Udaley, Fritz, Fish,
Here.
Saltzman,
Here.
Wheeler.
Here. Pursuant to PCC 3.02.025, Commissioner Udaley is participating by telephone due to personal reasons. Failure to allow participation of the City Council member by electronic communication would jeopardize the public interest, health, safety, or welfare. Do any of the council members who are physically present object to having Commissioner Udaley participate by telephone? Commissioner Udaley, you'll be happy to know there are no objections to your participation.
Did we
Fantastic.
Sorry.
make the announcement about Commissioner Fritz not wishing to participate?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that. Commissioner Fritz is also not physically present, but she was contacted and given an opportunity to participate by telephone today. There, I think I spit out the whole script there. Good afternoon, Legal Counsel.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Portland City Council. The City Council represents all Portlanders and meets to do the city's business. The presiding officer preserves order and decorum during City Council meetings so everyone can feel welcome, comfortable, respected, and safe. To participate in council meetings, you may sign up in advance with the council clerk's office for communications to briefly speak about any subject. You may also sign up for public testimony and resolutions or the first readings of ordinances. Your testimony should address the matter being considered at the time. When testifying, please state your name for the record. Your address is not necessary. Please disclose if you are a lobbyist. If you are representing an organization, please identify it. The presiding officer determines the length of testimony. Individuals generally have 3 minutes to testify unless otherwise stated. When you have 30 seconds left, a yellow light goes on. When your time is done, a red light goes on. If you're in the audience and would like to show your support for something that is said, please feel free to do a thumbs up. If you want to express that you do not support something, please feel free to do a thumbs down. Disruptive conduct such as shouting or interrupting testimony or council deliberations will not be allowed. If there are disruptions, a warning will be given that further disruption may result in the person being ejected for the remainder of the meeting. After being ejected, a person who fails to leave the meeting is subject to arrest for trespass. Thank you for helping your fellow Portlanders feel welcome, comfortable, respected, and safe.
Very good. Thank you. And Commissioner Udaley, I just want to confirm you can hear us.
Yes, I'm here.
Great. Fantastic. So one advantage of not participating directly is you get this really good photograph of you, and we just get whatever live shots happen to show up. So there is some advantage to participating by phone. So Carla, could you please read the first item?
Yes. Item 1347, authorize a new construction financing in an amount not to exceed $15,950,000 for the Argyle Apartments.
Director Callahan, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. Shannon Callahan of the Portland Housing Bureau. I am pleased to be here today with the 5th new affordable development under the North and Northeast Neighborhood Strategy, which prioritizes families and individuals with generational ties to North and Northeast Portland for new affordable housing opportunities. The particular project we're here to talk about this afternoon is the Argyle Apartments. It will be a new development on the corner of Argyle and Interstate Avenue in the Kenton neighborhood. PHB, the Portland Housing Bureau, and TriMet partnered on the solicitation in June of 2016, and REACH was selected for the project. REACH will be developing a 4-story, 189-unit development, which will house over 380 people. 10 units will provide deeply affordable housing. Throughout this development process, REACH has worked very closely with the community and the North and Northeast Oversight Committee. The DMWESB target for this project is 30%. Walsh Construction is the general contractor, and the team includes O'Neill Construction, the Metropolitan Contractor Improvement Partnership, and the local chapter of the National Association of Minority Contractors. Construction is expected to start in February, with lease-up beginning in July of 2020. Before I turn it over to the Executive Director of REACH, Dan Valier, I'd like to thank and acknowledge his commitment to work with the Housing Bureau and the Joint Office post-closing to ensure that 4 of the 10 deeply affordable units are available for preference policy households who need supportive housing. So with that, I will turn it over to Dan. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. And Council and Commissioners, thank you for this support that you are considering today. I'm joined by Lucy Corbett, who's the project manager on the project, and so we'll be happy to take your questions. I just thought I'd take this opportunity to make a couple comments. Clearly, we're really excited about this. We have a lot of work to do, so your support today will give us a lot of work for the next year plus, but that's what we want. And I thought I could just take a chance to share with you a couple thoughts about what we're learning and what we're committed to growing into through this project, just to help you see where we are in terms of our evolution. So if you humor me for a minute, I just wanted to touch on 3 themes, and maybe that'll provoke some additional questions. So for us, there are 3 key themes with the work we're doing here in particular. One is stewardship, one is system change, and one is racial justice. And it so happens that those 3 also pretty much cut across all of our work right now, but they really come out loud and clear here. In terms of stewardship, this is a large investment that the city of Portland is making, and so we understand the seriousness of that. And just so you understand how we view this, this investment is community resources. We are stewards of those resources, right? They don't become REACH's resources. They become community resources. Our job is to steward them for the long haul, for the next decades, and make sure this housing stays affordable, keep it up, manage it well, so that it is a resource for perpetuity. That's certainly our mission goal. In other words, it's not just a transaction, right? System change. This is a big one, and we could talk a lot more about that theme, but just to kind of give a touch point of what we're talking about with this project, the systems of real estate development and housing production and housing management are rooted in inequity, and they're rooted in systems of oppression. That's something that we've been talking a lot about at REACH more lately, especially. It's not something we've always publicly talked about. We're trying to talk about that more because we work in those systems, so we're, in a sense, part of the problem sometimes, potentially. That being said, it's projects like this that push us to push our own comfort zone, push our own routines, and do things different, and see what we learn from that, and then try to weave that into better ways of working. So we've been fortunate that the North-Northeast Oversight Committee has been a big part of this. We've learned a ton, collaborating with Portland Housing Bureau, going to the oversight meeting, getting feedback in a new way that we normally haven't gotten, and that's pushed us to do different things. So that's been great, and we're really glad that we get to be part of a project like that. Obviously, the preference policy is at the center of that, and so this will be our first time implementing the preference policy, and it's a lot of housing, so it's going to be a complex process, and it'll take a lot of collaboration. So we're excited about that. That's changing our own systems. That's changing the systems of how real estate works. And lastly, racial justice. So again, racial segregation, it persists, it's visible across the country. Real estate systems reproduce it today. And we see it, and we know that, again, the work in North-Northeast is in part a response to that issue and the fact that we have had such large-scale displacement, particularly hitting the African-American community there. So we're under no illusions that this project in any way is the solution for that. It's just the next step, but racial justice needs to be sort of visible as a top priority of this project. So that's the other thing we have to commit to doing REACH, make sure we keep that visible as we move forward and build it and manage it. And that's not easy to do, and it's not something we've always done well. So we're here to say that out loud today and to say we're going to do that, and it's a top priority. It's what this project is rooted in, and we look forward to learning and working with the partners like the Housing Bureau, like the North Northeast Oversight Committee. And I don't know if Marlon is in the room. If it is, we need to thank him, but he was thinking about coming, but I don't know if he could. Marlon Holmes is a member of the North Northeast Oversight Committee, and he, the whole committee was important to this, but he particularly for us because he lives in Kenton. So he was giving us feedback as an Oversight Committee member, but also as a neighborhood, longtime resident. So he deserves a lot of call out for his role to date, and he doesn't get, he gets credit, he doesn't get any blame, but he's pushed us. And so he was actually very critical at first, so that was good, and we had to work that through with him. So enough said. Thank you for listening to me. And with that, I think, unless Lucy has anything to add, we are here to take questions.
Very good, thank you. Colleagues, any questions? Commissioner Saltzman?
So it's 189 units altogether, but how many units will be subject to the preference policy? Just 4, or?
All of them will be subject to
Oh,
the
all of them.
preference policy.
Okay.
There are 4 units of, 4 of the 10 that are deeply affordable that are being reserved for both people that are subject to the preference policy and need supportive housing services. So for the first time, we'll be overlaying both of those preferences. And we appreciate REACH for working with us on that, and the Joint Office as well.
Okay, well, that's great. They're all subject to the preference policy.
They are all subject to the preference policy, yes.
Dan, who's your architect?
MWA?
Correct.
You want to say anything else about who's working on it there, or?
Diana Moosman and Bill Lanning and Ian Flood.
Very good. How many, do you have the numbers again, Shannon, in terms of the distribution of units? Studios, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, the family size versus the studios?
Well, 35%, I believe, of the units are actually family size. I have the count right here. Dan, do you have it as well?
Yeah, we have it. And you want to speak to that, Lucy?
Sure, the breakdown is 53 studios, 71 one-bedrooms, 47 two-bedrooms, and 18 three-bedrooms.
Wow,
18 3-bedroom?
18 three-bedroom, 2-bath.
great.
That's an example of something that evolved with community dialogue, the number of units in the mix and shifting it toward larger units.
I want to ask Commissioner Udaley if she has any questions at this point.
I am good. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, very good. Any further questions? Is there a public testimony on this item, Carla?
No one else signed up.
Very good. Call the roll.
Udaley?
Well, I'm thrilled this project is moving forward and very happy to support it. I vote aye.
Fish?
Yeah, this looks like a wonderful project. The reason I asked about the architect, because I thought the design had echoes of another project that Hulse did in terms of window treatment. And it actually is amazing how you can get so much value in the design by just making the windows somewhat asymmetrical or moving them around. And I was struck by how large a complex this is. I mean, this has a very substantial footprint, and couldn't come at a better time. So congratulations. Dan, is your headquarters still at Gray's Landing?
Yep, it is.
That's
On
wonderful.
the first floor of Gray's Landing, yep.
Well, REACH is a great partner for this city and has delivered time and time again, and today it's my great honor to vote aye.
Saltzman?
Well, congratulations to REACH. As Commissioner Fish said, REACH has been a longtime partner with the city, and you've done a lot of good work. Your portfolio, I think, speaks for itself, and your performance. And you've been a good, solid financial partner as well. And I want to thank Director Callahan for bringing this project to us, and Mayor Wheeler for his leadership. Aye.
Wheeler?
Well, there would be no preference policy without the leadership of Commissioner Saltzman. And we're going to embarrass him a little bit later. But this is a noteworthy occasion for 2 reasons. Number one, it's a very quiet city council meeting. And number two, this is Commissioner Saltzman's final Portland City Council meeting. And I want to acknowledge that the preference policy was a courageous step forward in terms of public policy and in trying to heal some of the wounds that had been caused by gentrification and displacement, and by healing those wounds, it helps our community move forward. And Director Callahan, I want to acknowledge that there has been a flurry of activity coming out of your Bureau in the final weeks of 2018. And you've set the bar very high for yourself in 2019. I am certainly pleased to see another 189 units of affordable housing come to the market. As Commissioner Saltzman noted, these are all subject to the preference policy, and I believe this project will contribute significantly to the promises made by the city to those impacted by prior urban redevelopment policies and actions in the Northeast study area. I definitely would be remiss if I didn't thank REACH CDC for your tremendous leadership. I know there was a considerable amount of project redesign that went into this. I know it was a challenging effort to secure funding, but you stuck to it. You used your resourcefulness. You got behind the stone and pushed hard, and here we are actually seeing this come to fruition. So I want to thank you for all of your efforts. And last, I want to thank the Northeast Oversight Committee for their recommendations on funding increases to this project. All of the good things that happen here at Portland City Council at the end of the day are done because the community gets behind them and they push them and they help us to be successful, and this project is no exception. I'm very proud to vote aye. The ordinance is adopted. Thank you for your great work.
Thank you.
Let's see, is it 220? Yes, it is. So we'll go to item 1348, please.
Accept the Year 3 Bond
Everett.
Oversight Committee report on the $68 million Parks 2014 General Obligation Bond.
Commissioner Fish.
Thank you, Mayor. Colleagues, the $68 million park replacement bond passed in 2014. With Commissioner Fritz's guidance over the last 3 years, the program has completed urgent repairs in parks, community centers, and in facilities throughout the city. As the new Parks Commissioner in charge, I look forward to continuing this good work. A 5-person bond oversight committee was established by City Council to provide oversight of the bond. Each year, the committee prepares a report. The report includes independent research and analysis and provides program evaluation and recommendations. We're pleased to welcome this afternoon Janice Mason, the newest member of the Bond Oversight Committee, who will present her findings, and Robin Laughlin, Portland Parks and Recreation Bond Program Manager, is also with us here today. Ladies, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Fish. Good afternoon, Mayor Wheeler, City Commissioners Boudreaux and Fritz, and, oh, Fritz is not here, Saltzman. Again, my name is Janice Mason, and I am Commissioner Fritz appointee from earlier this year, and I represent the 5-person Parks Bond Oversight Committee. Today, I'll provide a summary of our annual report. The charge of the committee is to review the progress of the Portland Parks and Recreation Bond projects using 3 objectives as our focus. The 3 are Objective 1, adherence to the language of the bond. Objective 2, maintain fiscal accountability. And Objective 3, be transparent with the community in our efforts. For Objective 1, the committee believes that the deliverables were met based on promises contained in the language of the voters' pamphlet. By close of the 3rd year, 13 Phase 1 projects were completed, increasing the total completed bond projects to 21. There are 31 projects underway and at various stages that included needed facility repairs, improvements, safety, and accessibility-related projects. A few of these completed projects now open to the public include the Matt Dishman swimming pool, repairs at the Pioneer Courthouse Square, and new handrails for safety at the Mount Tabor Park, to name just a few of them. We believe that the bond deliverables are adhering to the language of the bond. For Objective 2, the committee believes that bond dollars have clear and are separately traced, which ensures the integrity and accuracy of the financial statements. The administrative costs are well below the 10% total budget goal and are in fact 5.1%, and a separate tracking system is accessible to all staff. The current economic situation is impacting project bidding. Rising construction costs and a tight labor market presents a challenge for project budgets. The committee encourages the parks to continue to separate some projects into smaller projects for contract utilization with small, disadvantaged, minority, and women-owned businesses for professional services and construction. The bond's project utilization of these types of firms and companies were reported at the end of the fiscal year were 34% for businesses and professional services and 46% in construction. For Objective 3, we define it as acting in a way that promotes equity, participation, accountability, and engenders trust. Being transparent with the community and valuing community input helps build trust in this $68 million program. In the third year of the bond program, numerous park openings were celebrated with activities such as free lessons before the ribbon cutting at the Argay tennis courts and others. There were 30 open houses at PAC meetings and other community meetings, and the park's communications has also utilized online comments, forms, email notices, Nextdoor app, and the park's monitored Facebook account to engage with the community. The Bond Oversight Committee previously recommended strategic public outreach with metrics on the communication and transparency. Questionnaire surveys were distributed by print, web, email, and social media channels in English and Spanish. And highlights from the survey are, it revealed that 83% of people surveyed had heard about the park's replacement bond. 42% agreed more social media would improve transparency. 56% would like to hear more about the bond program by email newsletter. And 45% rated the bond transparency as good or very good. This ends my remarks for the annual report for the Parks Oversight Committee, and we believe that the objectives and promises to voters continue to be maintained. Thank you for your time. I'd also like to acknowledge and thank my fellow Bond Oversight Committee members, Jonas Cullen, Ken Richardson, Zari Santner, and Karen Loper-Tracy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Robin, do you have anything to add?
I don't, just wanted to be here if you had any extra questions about this report or where we're headed in the coming years.
Well, I'm sorry Commissioner Fritz isn't here to take a bow. She was the leader of this particular Parks Bond effort. This is the third annual report. We really appreciate, Janice, you taking the time to share the report with us. And now I'll see if there are any questions from my colleagues.
Well, I just have a comment, and the comment is, number one, I appreciate the structure so that we do have this independent oversight, and we do have people looking at the fiscal accountability and making sure that we are living up to the obligations of what was promised to the voters when they agreed to have us issue the bonds in the first place. Just in terms of adherence to the language of the bond, the fiscal accountability, the public transparency, you're doing everything that I would hope and expect. And I want to thank you for the report itself. The report, I think, is very, very easy for people to be able to understand. So it's not just good for us, but it's good for the public at large. And I would encourage people, if they'd like to see this report, to look it up. Where does it currently reside? Does it reside on the Parks Bureau website, or where could somebody find this report if they were interested?
After today's report to council, we'll be posting it on the Parks Replacement Bond at portlandparks.org.
Portlandparks.org.
Portland Parks Replace. Maya's got the best memory on that one. Thank you.
Could you repeat that on the record, please?
parksreplacement.bond.org.
Fantastic. I'm sure
And there
people
is a
wanna see
link
it.
from the Portland Parks website to that site.
Yeah, great. And for people who can't see it right now, there's also some really great photographs of some of the more recent investments. So it's worth a look.
Yes.
Great,
Just
thank you.
One other comment, Mayor. I was struck by the 42% of people surveyed, and I know this is not a scientific survey, agreed that more social media would improve transparency. I have to observe that this is the week that Merritt Paulson, the owner of the Timbers, publicly canceled his Twitter account because he decided that it was more trouble than it was worth. And also with the almost daily disclosures about the cavalier attitude of Facebook in dealing with people's private data and information, I think there's probably going to be a pendulum here where people are less and less inclined to use Facebook because they don't trust what's going to happen to their data. So if social media becomes less trusted, then we're going to have to find other ways of getting the word out. One thing I do know is that the Parks Bureau has put together an extraordinary email list, and I think the number is close to 100,000 addresses. So they're clearly able to communicate with a lot of people. It is the great challenge, though, of our work. At a time when the media landscape is very fractured, and by that I mean there's lots of players, but not many of them have great reach. So people get their information customized from all kinds of sources. And then just the busy lives that people live, how do you communicate with people? And how do you do it in a way that's welcome? You know, I make the mistake every once in a while of signing up, of saying yes when I buy something online, that I'll accept emails, and I get a daily email from some company, and after a while, it's like, enough already. So finding the sweet spot where we are communicating with our key stakeholders, which is the people we serve, in a way that works for them with high-level messages using new technology, that's the challenge. And clearly, government has a long way to go before we get it right, but we're trying. But I want to echo what the mayor said. I liked the user-friendly nature of this report, and there were a number of things in here that were helpful to me as the new commissioner in charge, and I learned some things. So thank you very much for your service.
Thank you very much.
Mayor, I move the report.
Second?
We have a motion from Commissioner Fish, a second from Commissioner Saltzman. Any further business? I don't know if Commissioner Udaley is
She's disconnected.
she's disconnected. Please call the roll.
Fish.
I just want to say for the record, Commissioner Udaley is very connected to her work here, Mayor. Rather unseemly to take a shot like that when she's not here to defend herself. But I want to thank the Bond Oversight Committee, Zeri Santner, Janice Mason, Jonathan Cologne, Karen Loper Tracy, and Ken Richardson. I want to thank the professionals that administer the fund, all the folks at PP&R whose job it is to spend the money, and they've been doing a great job in very challenging circumstances, particularly with the cost of materials going up for a variety of reasons. And I want to thank Commissioner Fritz for her leadership in bringing the bond to fruition so that we have these dollars to spend. Thanks to everybody. Aye.
Saltzman.
Well, good job. It's a great report, and it looks like things are getting done, and happy to hear your administrative cost is less than the cap. 5.1% is much better than 10%. So that means more dollars for more parks things. So pleased to support this. Aye.
Wheeler.
Oh, I'm very happy to support this. Thanks for your great work. Thanks for bringing in the report today. Well done. I vote aye. Report's accepted. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item, 1349, please.
Update burglary and alarm systems code with current practices and definitions for alarm permitting.
Very good. Come on up, gentlemen. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Mayor. Commissioners, I'm Chris Davis with the Police Bureau. I have Vincent Ferreras with me, who's the manager of our alarms program. I'm going to let him do most of the talking about this and just give you a couple-minute high-level summary of what we're proposing.
Great, thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners, Commissioner Fish, Commissioner Saltzman, and Mayor Wheeler. I appreciate being here today.
Thanks for being here.
So just going to talk a little bit about our alarm ordinance. My name is Vinny Ferreras. I'm the Alarm Program Manager for the Portland Police Bureau. The Portland Police Bureau Alarm Administration Unit is governed by City Code 14B10, and the last time this was revised was February 2003. City code requires monitored burglar alarms and robbery alarms to obtain a permit and subsequent annual renewals with the Portland Police Bureau, and this code sets forth the actions for response. The alarm industry has changed over the past 15 years, and this ordinance will replace the existing city code to better fit the current environment of alarm operations. Primary changes to the city code include expanded and added definitions, including definitions for do-it-yourself DIY systems, enhanced call verification methods, and criteria for determining whether an alarm incident is false. It sets an expectation for alarm systems to be permitted within the Portland Police Bureau prior to activation with the alarm monitoring company. Includes language to assist with the reduction of the number of false alarm response incidents, including enhanced call verification, as mentioned before, educational requirements for companies to provide to system users, and sets installation guidance for DIY systems where a monitoring company is utilized. Requirements for reactivation for permit holders with excessive false alarm incidents to prove remediation before police services are restored. In addition to changing city code to reflect the more current practices in the alarm industry, it is also the intent of this legislation to assist with the deployment of resources for response to alarm incidents. At present, PPB officers are responding to an alarm incident every 40 minutes a day, each day of the year. PPB receives over 13,000 alarm-related calls for service, and this was for fiscal year 2017 and 18, which 97% of those were determined false. Responding to a high number of false alarm incidents takes away resources from other calls for service, as the time spent on each false alarm incident is just under 20 minutes. This legislation will not reduce or eliminate all false alarm responses. However, is it expected to assist with the goal of reducing the overall number of dispatch alarm incidents in an effort to better deploy resources for other emergency calls. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Saltzman.
So, yeah, how is it going to reduce responding to false emergency calls?
Definitely. So, to give an example, for instance, we'll say the do-it-yourself systems is an example, okay? So the DIY systems.
So, yeah, so a DIY system is something that the homeowner installs, but they
Yes.
use they do have a monitoring service, is that
Correct. So they would
Okay.
have an outside monitoring service that would be monitoring that. And so the DIYs, what we're finding is that, for instance, somebody will put a motion sensor outside. Or somebody might put a camera facing maybe like their front window, and a car will come down the street, and the lights from the car will trigger a motion sensor. There's things that, the way that the alarms are installed, that's why there's professionals that do that, and a lot of the false alarms are coming from things that are happening from the DIYs. Other things to look at in the ordinance, excuse me, to help reduce the number of false alarms. Another one is we're looking at, after your fourth false alarm, that we're asking the alarm user to go to more of a verified response. So what we're saying is you've already utilized 4 different times this year within a permit year. Now we need to either have what's called cross-zoning, where 2 or more devices have to be activated for officers to show up. And if they're uncomfortable with that, then they can put cameras or audio within the location to help with that verified response, so we can verify the incident before we respond. And those are just ways to help mitigate those false alarms. But again, you know, in 2003, I was a senior in high school. I'm 34 today. And in the amount of time from then till today, technology has exploded. And there's a lot of different avenues that these false alarms go down. I am also on the Oregon Burglar and Fire Alarm Association. I'm an executive member, as well as a board member for the Northwest False Alarm Reduction Association, which is a national committee. And we have found in studies that majority of the false alarms are either from equipment malfunction or user error. So one of the things, looking at the ordinance, we wanted to make sure that all parties, including the Police Bureau, the City of Portland, the alarm users, and the alarm industry, all have responsibilities that they have to adhere to. We all have to work together to make this work. One of the things I want to note is we did a focus group. I had 15 stakeholders from around the community, including members of the city, the mayor's office, and we worked together to craft this ordinance to make sure that we were listening to our constituents and listening to the citizens. The other thing is I'm a member of the Police Equity Council at the Police Bureau. Equity means a lot to me, and so I made sure to look at this through an equity lens as well, because I know not everyone in the city of Portland has an alarm system or can afford one. So we really wanted to make sure that people are getting responses to alarms. And with the high number of alarms that we go to, 13,000 is a lot of alarm calls. So that, right now we're in a situation where this could help reduce the number and possibly give our resources to other calls for service. So.
Is there a threshold if you have too many false alarms? We just cut you off, we don't respond?
So after the fourth false alarm, we can suspend after that. If the alarm user does not want to go either to the cross zoning or to the more of that verified response, then what we'll do is we can suspend them from that, yes. And then we won't go to those calls for service.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. And I just want to underscore before I move this to second reading, well, I guess, is there any public testimony on this item?
No one signed up.
Very good. Before I move this on to second reading, this was interesting, the do-it-yourself alarm issue here. We've obviously had lots of interesting conversations about policing and police capacity, and one of the most obvious, cost-effective, and easiest ways that we can improve police response is to get rid of some of the false alarms. And I was really, I'd heard anecdotally about this issue, but when I looked at the data, it's staggering to me that there are 13,000 alarm-related calls for service a year, of which 97% are determined to be false.
Correct.
And when you add that to PPB officers responding to an alarm incident every 40 minutes of the day, each and every day of the year, that is a staggering waste of police resources. Keep in mind, you're talking sworn, trained, certified officers going out for these literally thousands of false alarm calls. So I never like to presage my vote. I can always change it over the course of the next week. But this is clearly an urgent issue just with regard to the best deployment of a very, very limited resource. So I appreciate your bringing it forward, and I appreciate your sharing this information with us today. So colleagues, unless there's anything else on this subject, this is a first reading of a non-emergency ordinance. It moves to second reading. Thank you both for being here today.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Great. Next item is 1350.
Accept bid of Just Bucket Excavating, Inc. for the Northeast Columbia Boulevard at MLK Junior Boulevard project for $1,083,525.
So Commissioner Saltzman, we felt it was important to have a special guest show up for your final meeting, and we thought, who better than Larry Paulette? Welcome, sir.
Wow.
He's always entertaining. That's good. That's good.
I don't even have an idea what to say. Maybe I'll just leave. Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners, and we are sorry to see you go, Commissioner Saltzman.
Thanks, Larry.
I haven't been in here that often, but, you ask some very good questions, and you're obviously an engaged commissioner, and we appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
Okay, to business. You have before you the procurement report recommending a contract award to Just Bucket Excavating for the Northeast Columbia Boulevard project at MLK. The amount's $1,083,525.36. I always wonder about the cents on those anyway. The engineer's estimate on the project was $933,000. The Bureau's confidence level was optimal at the time. Bids were opened October 30th. 5 were received. Just Bucket is low. But it's $1,083,525. I'm going to skip the 36 cents, which is $150,525 or 16% over the engineer's estimate. This project is a federally funded highway project, and as such, the city's standards goal of 20% disadvantaged minority women and emerging small business and service-disabled veterans participates is not applicable. Federal projects recognize the DBE, Disadvantaged Business Certification only. Oregon Department of Revenue is the grantor and manager of federal funds. They do provide the oversight and allocate the goals. The project has a 13% DBE goal, which is higher. Transportation has been working hard to get higher and higher goals out of ODOT, and Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but this one has a 13%. We actually have, Just Bucket is committed at 23.5%, but given that Just Bucket is a DBE firm, it brings the total participation to almost 75%. Just Bucket Excavating is located in Albany, Oregon. They are state-certified DBE and MBE contractor. They're a firm included in the city's prime contractor development program. However, they did not get this opportunity through that program. They are in compliance with all the city's requirements for contracting. If the council has any questions, I can answer them. We did not ask either the Bureau or the contractor here today because of they're so far over the requirements.
Very good. Colleagues, any questions? I'll entertain a report, or entertain a
Move to
motion.
adopt the report.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Saltzman, a second from Commissioner Fish. Please call the roll.
Fish,
Aye.
Saltzman,
Good work. Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. Report's adopted. Thank you. Next item, 1351.
Accept bid of Brown Contracting, Inc. for the Highway Safety Improvement Program Bike and Pedestrian Project for $1,193,111.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm Larry Palat, Procurement Services. You have before you the procurement report recommending a contract award to Brown Contracting for the Highway Safety Improvement Program Bike and Pedestrian Project, $1,193,111. Council approved the ordinance to authorize this project to move forward and solicit in July 25th, 2018. The project was advertised on our electronic procurement system. The notice of intent to award for the project was issued on November 9th. This report seeks approval of the contract award to Brown Contracting at $1,193,111, which is 6.5% under the engineer's estimate. That's always good news. This is another federally highway-funded project, and again, the city's standard co-bid requirements do not apply. The federal project, this is a federal project. It has a project goal of 12%, again, higher than our typical projects. Brown Contracting has committed to 13.66% of this project. They are located in Eugene, Oregon. They are not a state-certified co-bid contractor. They do have a current tax registration, and they are in compliance with all of the city's contracting requirements. Again, because they're over the goals, we did not ask either the Bureau or the contractor into chambers. So if you have any questions, I can answer them.
Any questions, colleagues? I'll entertain a motion.
Move the report.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Saltzman, a second from Commissioner Fish. Please call the roll.
Fish,
Aye.
Saltzman,
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. Report's adopted. Thank you. 1352, please.
Accept bid of Moore Excavation, Inc. for downtown Old Town Carruthers to Mill Sewer Rehabilitation for $2,934,730.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Now, I promise this is the last one, unless you guys have something else later. But you have before you the procurement report recommending contract award to Moore Excavation, Inc. It is the downtown Old Town Carruthers Mill Sewer Rehab Project. The amount's $2,934,730. The engineer's estimate on the project was $3,287,200, and at the time, the confidence level was high. August 22nd, 2018, council approved this project to be solicited. The project was advertised on our electronic procurement system, and bids were opened October 18th. 3 bids were received, and Moore Excavation, Inc. is the lowest responsible bidder at $2,934,730, which is 11.1% under the engineer's estimate. Bureau of Environmental Services, along with Procurement Service, identified an aspirational goal for a State of Oregon co-bid certified subcontractor and supplier utilization of 20%, our standard process. There is a total of $818,760, which is 27.84% co-bid certified firm participation for this project, including certified contractors apportioned as follows. There are 3 DBE firms at $816,000 performing a series of saw cutting, traffic control, CIPP, installation and closed-circuit TV monitoring, lateral lining. There is 1 ESB firm providing road control at $2,000. Moore Excavation, Inc. is located in Fairview, Oregon. They are not a state-certified DMW ESB contractor. They do have a certified, they do have a current City of Portland business tax registration. They're in compliance with our contracting requirements. I'm just going to make a side note. This is the highest level of participation I have seen from Moore Excavation since I started doing reports several years back. And generally speaking, they say they find it difficult to get certified subs. And I really just wanted to know that, want the council to know that they've worked very hard on this one, and the participation is fantastic. And we did not ask either, like I said, the Bureau or the contractor here, but I almost wish they were here so I could publicly say they worked really hard at it, and it is really great to see.
It's 37?
27.84.
27.84%?
Yeah.
Well, Larry, thanks for calling that out. And I would also note that at the time, a while back, that council flagged this issue as an issue of concern, there were some meetings that were held with Moore where they shared a perspective about the challenges they faced, and we shared a perspective about what our goals were.
Right.
And I think this is evidence of a good faith effort on their part to meet us more than halfway. So I
would
think they
agree
should be
very
commended
much.
for that.
Great. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved?
Second?
We have a motion from Commissioner Saltzman, a second from Commissioner Fish. Please call the roll.
Fish.
Aye.
Saltzman.
Well, thanks, Larry, for calling out Moore Excavation's very high goals for disadvantaged business.
Absolutely.
So I just want to congratulate Moore Excavation and Roy Moore for doing that, and keep up the good work. Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. The report's adopted. We'll see you next year, Larry.
Thank you. Yeah, a whole year away.
Thank you,
We will
sir.
miss you, Commissioner.
Thanks, Larry.
Thank you all.
Next item, 1353.
Establish 2019 sale price cap for the Homebuyer Opportunity Limited Tax Exemption Program.
Very good. Director Callahan, welcome back.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm actually going to turn it over to Dory Van Bockel, but because this is, I believe, Commissioner Salzman's last council item, we thought we'd bring the leadership team of the Housing Bureau up as well, just to sit here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Dory Van Bockel. I'm Program Manager with our Development Incentives team. I'm here with our annual price cap resolution for the Homebuyer Opportunity Limited Tax Exemption Program. This price cap is also enacted for the System Development Charge Exemption Program and the LTIC transportation exemption that's available for home builders that therefore benefits affordable housing for primarily first-time home buyers across the city. So the Housing Bureau is required per statute to establish an annual price cap for the programs based on the median sale price across Multnomah County. We're able to go up to 120% of that value. The current median sale price cap across the county from January through November of this year came to $395,000 at 100%. And last year, the close to 100% is where our amount was at $375,000. By reviewing what is affordable still to home buyers at 100% of median family income, which is the limit for these particular programs, and what is affordable to home buyers at that income level, we are determining to keep or increase the sale price by about 5% to that 100% level, which is at $395,000. It is still a stretch for a family at that 80 to 100% median family income. Luckily, in looking at our program data from the most recent year, the average sale price of actual homes participating in the program has been about $325,000, which is much more comfortable for first-time home buyers with less of a down payment. And across the program, if we were to go to the full 120% of the median sale price, that would take it up to close to $475,000, which just would not be feasible for 100% income buyers. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Very good. Is there any public testimony on this item?
No one signed up.
Very good. This is a resolution. Please call the roll.
Fish.
Thank you for your, as always, very clear and concise testimony and presentation on this item. Aye.
Saltzman.
Yeah, thanks, Dory. I think you've been doing a great job and appreciate that very much. Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. The resolution is adopted. Colleagues, we now have a special
All right.
item that we would like to insert into the agenda today.
Mayor, I
As
move that we suspend the rules.
Rules so suspended. And that means if anybody wants to roast Commissioner Saltzman, you're certainly allowed to do that. It is no longer considered heckling under the suspension of the rules. I'd like to have the honor of reading a proclamation on behalf of the entirety of the Portland City Council. And then it's my understanding we have a video. Is that correct? I'm told we do. And so we'll see if that comes to fruition. And then I would like to leave room for us to make some comments before we allow Commissioner Saltzman to gavel us out of his final meeting with the Portland City Council. So I'm going to give him the gavel so I don't forget to do that later on.
Keep things under control here.
I'll do my level best. Whereas Commissioner Dan Saltzman is a Portland resident who has dedicated over 30 years of his life to public service. And whereas Commissioner Saltzman's staff and family have continually supported him during that time. And whereas Commissioner Saltzman, during his tenure at City Hall, has served with 4 mayors, 7 commissioners, and 3 auditors. And whereas within the past 25 years, Commissioner Saltzman is the only non-mayor to oversee the Portland Police Bureau. And whereas in 2016, Multnomah County Chair Deborah Kafori and Commissioner Dan Saltzman partnered to merge the city and the county's efforts to address the crisis of individuals and families experiencing homelessness into one focused entity known as the Joint Office for Homeless Services. And whereas Commissioner Saltzman directed the Portland Housing Bureau and the Portland Bureau of Planning and Sustainability to create the inclusionary housing policy that over time will create more affordable housing than any publicly funded effort. And whereas his proudest accomplishment is creating the Portland Children Levy, which funds proven, cost-effective programs that achieve positive results for youth and their families. Now, therefore, I, Ted Wheeler, the mayor of the city of Portland, Oregon, the City of Roses, do hereby proclaim December 20th, 2018 to be Dan Saltzman Day in Portland and encourage all residents to observe.
Would you like me to say?
Mayor, if I could.
Oh.
We changed it.
Actually to the service of us. So as a Portlander, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for investing in community, being a leader, being a person who keeps their word, integrity, character, and all that you've been. But ultimately, thanks for just being a good friend.
Dan, on behalf of Volunteers of America, Oregon, and me personally, thank you for your service to our community.
Hey Dan, thank you for all that you have done for the Native American Youth and Family Center. On behalf of the men and women of Portland Fire, Dan, I just want to say thank you.
Well, I heard that Dan Saltzman is going to be leaving the city council. I have absolutely no idea why that would ever happen.
Dan, I remember when you first proposed the Portland Children's Levy. I thought to myself, can he really do that? You did, Dan, you did. Congratulations on the Portland Children's Levy. 16 years of doing very good things for our community's kids.
Thank you, Dan, from the Portland Children's Levy.
When you came to visit Kairos, you were one of our first commissioners to come visit us, and you were playing with the children and talking with them, and were able to interact with them in a really authentic, genuine way.
Thank you on behalf of all of the domestic violence survivors and their children that you've helped. Without you, we wouldn't have a Gateway Center. And because of you, thousands of survivors and their children have achieved safety, reached stability, and improved their qualities of life.
I appreciate the work that you've done for the arts, for the housing, and certainly for Miracles Club. Without you, we couldn't do what we've done. Thank you, Dan, and we wish you the absolute best in the future.
The Miracles Club to help people change their lives in recovery. Your contribution and your impact has meant so much to not just the Miracles Club and its members, but also to our community.
You are so instrumental in helping us to develop the Asian Family Center, and that has been one of the most significant development for the Asian community in the city of Portland.
I'll always remember the consideration you put into your thinking and keeping in mind those that need you at critical moments.
I have been grateful to know you and work with you. Have a great retirement.
I got to spend a big part of my public service career as your colleague, and I saw you lead with integrity and compassion and competence every step of the way.
Commissioner Saltzman, ever since you strolled in to my congressional office years ago when I was a young congressman and you were a young engineer, public service has been in your DNA.
From the central city planning process to new transportation ideas, getting more affordable housing out there, making sure that the community's safe, you've been a stalwart partner.
Thank you and congratulations, Commissioner Saltzman.
Thank you, Dan Saltzman, for your service to our county and our city.
And when you look at not only what you've done in your tenure, but what you have inspired and encouraged others to do, that really magnifies what you've been able to accomplish and what you will continue to accomplish.
He's kept me on my toes for 10 years. He has set a standard for public service for his colleagues and others who serve in government, and Dan will be greatly missed.
Thank you, Dan, for conceiving of and bringing to life the Portland Children's Levy. You've changed the lives of thousands of children in our city.
From all of us at Multnomah County, we just want to say thank you, Dan. Thank you for bringing your heart and your passion for kids to your job every day.
And the results of your relentless focus and your commitment can be seen everywhere in this city, but especially in the eyes of children who really just needed somebody to be on their side. It was an honor to help you.
Now you have time, Dan. Look at me. I'm wearing tennis shoes and jeans. Dan, you too. You wear tennis shoes and jeans.
No matter where you go or what you do, I want you to know this. You're always going to be my friend. So thank you.
Now, I hope that your next endeavors will be amazing, that you'll get a chance to rest and play and do something creative. You know that we'll be asking for your ideas.
We're going to be calling you for free service, for continued service, and friendship. Shalom, my friend. I love you.
And as Smokey Robinson sings, and I won't sing it, someday we'll be together. Until that time, God bless.
Dan, some of your colleagues wanted to say a few brief words, and of course, if you'd like to say something, we'd certainly like to hear any comments you may have. And I've said most of what I wanted to say before, but I'll say it again here because this is a lot of the people here are the city family. Dan led with courage, and he led with conviction. And I said the other day at our City Hall function that I found that very inspirational. In a time when we are divided, it's more important than ever that people have a clear North Star, and Dan always had a very, very clear North Star, and therefore he ultimately was a very courageous leader in terms of how he helped guide the city. And when you look at the kinds of things he accomplished, and we always just mention a few, but keep in mind over his tenure, there are hundreds and hundreds of important policy decisions, important leadership moments that Dan experienced and rose to the challenge of during his tenure. But when I look at the Children's Levy, and I think about the innovative leadership that that provided, and I talked the other day about how when the U.S. Speaker of the House was in Portland, she stopped when she saw one of the Children's Levy signs in the front yard and was just fascinated by it. That was your leadership. The preference policy, and today we added another 169 units to the preference policy in Northeast Portland. That would not have gotten off the ground without Commissioner Saltzman, and it was a very, very cutting edge and risky proposition when it was first proposed, and now here it is several years later, and it's working the way people had envisioned. The Gateway Center for Domestic Violence, that would not have come to fruition without Dan Saltzman's consistent push, courageous leadership, and his ability to really get into the weeds and problem solve on how to make that a reality. And of course, the inclusionary housing program that the city's currently undertaking, which, as we noted earlier, over the long run is going to create more affordable housing than any other specific policy that we'll have the ability to put in place with regard to incentivization. So, Dan, you've been bold, you've been brave, you have operated with a clear sense of value and conviction. You are an inspiration to me, and you are an inspiration to everyone else in this community. And we thank you for your leadership, and we thank you for what you have done not only today, but what your leadership will mean for future generations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that very much.
So 10 years ago, when I was elected to the council, the first story that I remember reading mentioned me as the youngest member of the council, and the newest member, not the youngest, excuse me, the most junior member of the council.
I'm the youngest now.
With Dan's departure, I now become the most senior, and that happened quickly over 10 years. Dan and I have anchored this end of the dais, and you can generally distinguish between our end and the other end if you followed us the last 10 years. And I think that the constant difference is there's always been a lot more heat at that end than there is at this end, and I don't have to go into any of the details. One of the things that Commissioner Saltzman has never gotten enough credit for is his dry sense of humor. And he and I have sat through some very long hearings, and we've had long weeks up here. And from time to time, I've sought relief by just engaging him, and he always had something funny to say about the predicament we found ourselves in. And he's not flashy with his humor, and he's not flashy as a person, but he is extremely funny. And it's been an honor to sit next to Dan. And what I'd like to add to the mayor's excellent comments is that if you've watched Dan in his public service, he's left a roadmap for the people that are going to follow. And he is steady. He has been very clear about his priorities. And remember, this is a roadmap. This is in the nature of advice that others would benefit, including myself, from following. He's been clear about his priorities and focused on the priorities. There is a general rule of thumb in this unusual form of government that compels each of us to have a working understanding of what the priorities of each of our colleagues are. And if you want to be successful in this form of government, you have to get up every day knowing what the other four people care about, and you have to constantly look for opportunities to nurture those interests, and then it comes back to you 10 times over. But it's really one of our jobs is to know clearly what does Dan Saltzman care about, what makes him tick, and how can I and others support him as part of the collaborative way we do business. Well, for 10 years, Dan has been very clear in defining his priorities, and they are, you could put it on a bumper sticker: children, the environment, and watching the bottom line. I've heard endless chiefs of staff state it just that way. I've heard it from Dan. And what that means is while he has done a lot of work, he's come back to a core focus time and time again. And it was the great Mike Lindbergh, when I first joined this body, who said to me, pick 3 things that you care about, because if you start doing much more than that, you're going to spread yourself too thin. And Dan has been really focused on 3 things, which is why when the mayor went through the list of accomplishments, it's so long. Dan has been a great ally on issues I care about, and a couple times in the 10 years, we've been on the other side of an issue. And I have to say publicly, I much prefer to be an ally because Dan is an immovable force when he sets his mind to something. And life is too short to be on the opposite side of a fight with Dan. It's much more efficient to find common ground and have the benefit of his relentless pursuit to getting to the finish line. I've said it before and I'll say it again, I think Dan is a model of a public servant in our community. He will be greatly missed by this council, and he will be greatly missed by me. And thank you, Dan, for your service.
Thank you, Nick. Appreciate that. My turn?
Your turn.
Okay. Hey, we even got Channel 30 to pan the crowd, so they know there's people here. Open signal, I should say. Anyway, I appreciate the honors, and I'm really glad I got a proclamation, got a day. But I just want to say, it's been a tremendous honor to serve Portlanders and to work alongside city employees for 20 years. And it really is hard to believe it's been 20 years. It's, in many respects, it's gone by so quick. But it's been my honor to call myself a city employee, to work alongside people who are very dedicated to the jobs that they do on behalf of Portland residents. And I know most people don't appreciate the hard work and dedication that many of us bring to our jobs, but I've seen it for 20 years, inside and out. And I just want to say thank you to all city employees for allowing me to be a colleague of yours for some 20 years. And I think that, I just also, and I appreciate in the proclamation acknowledging my family. I want to, thank my family, my sisters, Julie and Barb, my brother Jeff, and my daughter Adrienne, and also my partner Liz Burns, very much for putting up with me these years. And I also want to thank my colleagues, past and present, for putting up with me, as I know I can be sometimes a little stubborn and maybe insistent on what I believe in. But I think, as Commissioner Fish just said, I think we expect no less of one another, to stand up for what we believe in and to work hard to get those results. So I'll just close by saying I've never been one who quotes people, but lately I've been quoting musicians in particular. And I will quote 2 musicians. One is the singer Jewel, who wrote a song that has a verse in it that, in the end, only kindness matters. And I think that's so true. We always need to remind ourselves to be kind to one another, to respect one another, and not be disrespectful or say things that are disrespectful about people. The other is the Grateful Dead. What a long, strange trip it's been. So thank you, and I'm very honored for this day. Thank you. And I'll miss you all. Oh, this is Robert.
So I don't know if it's an ancient tradition at Portland City Hall. If it's not, it's a new ancient tradition. Dan, would you please gavel us out?
We are adjourned for December 20th, 2018, and we are adjourned for the entire year of 2018. God bless.